The Minister of Defense, Matawalle, has blasted the Minister of FCT, Wike, over the disgraceful altercation he had with a Naval officer. Matawalle said Wike had defied the advice of top military chief and went ahead to confront a Naval officer, Lieutenant Commander Yerima, at a disputed site in Abuja. Speaking in an interview with DC Orausa, Matawalle described the incident as unfortunate and said Wike had earlier contacted both the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Naval Staff, who advised him to allow the military to investigate the matter before taking any action. Matawalle defended the Naval officer, saying that the officer's action was lawful, that he was trained to be disciplined, loyal and obedient to orders. Matawalle said in quote, "There is therefore no offense under military law for which the said officer should be charged. Wike shouldn't have engaged him in an altercation, especially out of respect for the uniform he was wearing. Anyone who disrespects a soldier indirectly disrespects the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces." It seems like Minister Wike has gotten himself into deep trouble waters with that his altercation with that young Naval officer. What seemed like another display of political muscle has quickly turned into something far more dangerous. Within days, 3 of Nigeria's most powerful security chiefs had spoken, and none of them were on Wike's side. Former Chief of Army Staff Tuku Buratai didn't mince words. He called it a public humiliation of a soldier, an attack on the foundation of national order, and that Wike undermined national security. These aren't just strong words, they are the kind of language that signals a line has been crossed. Then came President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself. While speaking at the All Nigerian Editor Conference, he said, and quote, "Are we doing something about it? Are we inspiring the armed forces? Are we encouraging them to fight? They put their life on the line to defend the sovereignty of this country." This is the Commander-in-Chief elogizing the armed forces just days after one of his ministers had an altercation with a young Naval officer. This is nothing but a subtle rebuke to Wike. In translation, even the president isn't happy. And then you just watch the Inspector General of Police, who has just weighed in, criticizing the police officer who got themselves involved in incident on Wike's behalf. Wike has never been one to shy away from confrontation. As a former governor of Rivers State, he built a reputation as a political bulldozer, someone who gets things done. Consequences be damned. His supporters love him for it. His enemies fear him for it. But there is a critical difference between confronting fellow politicians and disrespecting military personnel. In Nigeria's power structure, the military isn't just another institution, it is their institution. And anyone who has studied Nigerian history knows what happened when politicians forget that simple fact. Wike's altercation with a Naval officer wasn't just a personal spat. It was perceived as an attack on military authority, discipline, and ultimately the chain of command that keeps the armed forces functional. And that's where things get really dangerous for the FCT minister. Military hierarchy isn't like your office structure. You can't just walk up to any soldier and dress them down because you are a civilian officer, even a powerful minister. There is a sacred chain of command that runs from the lowest private all the way up to the commander-in-chief. And here is how it works. The commander-in-chief, who is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, sits at the very top. He is the only civilian who has ultimate authority over all military personnel. Below him are the Chief of Defense Staff, coordinates all military branches, the Service Chief, Head of Army, Navy and Air Force, Field Commanders and officers, down through various ranks, the soldiers on the ground. Every single order flows through this chain. Every disciplinary action goes through this structure. Every command, every decision, every deployment, everything follows the chain. Here is what civilians need to understand. When a minister, any minister, publicly confronts, embarrasses or attempts to override a military officer in the field, they are not just disrespecting that individual, they are undermining the entire command structure. Buratai's statement wasn't hyperbole when he said Wike undermined the authority of the commander-in-chief. He meant it literally. By stepping aside the proper channels, Wike essentially inserted himself into a military chain of command where he has no business being. Asking a military personnel to vacate a military order that was given to him is seen as an act of treason in the military command. Wike has no business, he has no right talking to that naval officer to leave that premises. But one may ask, who can vacate a military order? This is very crucial, and this is where Wike might have miscalculated badly. A military order can only be changed or vacated by the officer who issued it or their superior in the chain of command, high-ranking officers in the direct chain, the service chief of that particular branch. In this case, it is the chief of the naval staff. Not even the chief of the army staff can vacate that order. The chief of defense staff, the commander-in-chief, who is the president. Notice who is not on that list: cabinet ministers. Even as FCT minister, Wike has no authority to countermand, question, or interfere with military orders, especially those given by officers in the field. He is a civilian administrator, not a military commander. If there was an issue with the naval officer conduct or orders, the proper channel would have been contact the chief of naval staff. Wike did not even contact the chief of naval staff. He contacted the chief of defense staff. Now notice what happened. After the chief of defense staff spoke to the naval officer still insisted on being there, meaning the chief of defense staff did not vacate that order. He didn't see any need to vacate the order. He didn't see any need to cite Nyesom Wike. That should have sent a message to Nyesom Wike that something is brewing up. Another thing that Wike would have done is lodge a formal complaint through appropriate channels. Let military discipline handle military matters. If necessary, escalate to the defense headquarters or even the presidency. What you do not do is confront the officer publicly, attempt to override their authority, or treat them like they are your subordinates. That is not just bad protocol, it is dangerous. Let us paint a scenario for Nyesom Wike that he comes out of this looking like an elder statesman instead of a bully, even when we know that Nyesom Wike will always be a bully. He will never appear or come out like an elder statesman. This is what he was supposed to do. The moment you realize you are dealing with military personnel on official duty, you change your approach. Military officers aren't local government chairman or party chieftain. Different rules apply. If there is a legitimate concern, maybe the officer is in the wrong place or there is confusion about jurisdiction, you ask questions respectfully. Officer, can you help me understand what's happening here? What are your orders? If you believe that a military presence is inappropriate, you don't argue with the junior officer. You immediately contact the chief of naval staff or the defense headquarters. Let them handle their personnel. Get the officer details, document the situation, and follow proper channels. If you are in the right, the military will investigate and take appropriate action. After going through proper channels, you can address the public. I encounter a situation today that raised questions about coordination between civilian and military authorities. I have engaged with the appropriate military leadership to ensure we are all working together to serve Nigeria better. You see the difference? Same concern, completely different outcome. You maintain your dignity, respect the military chain of command, and still address the issue. But that's not what happened. Wike is arguably the most powerful person in Tinubu cabinet after the president himself. He controls Abuja. He has massive political capital. He was instrumental in Tinubu's election victory. He has a formidable structure in Rivers State and beyond. In short, Wike has been untouchable until now. When Buratai speaks, people listen. The former army chief isn't just any retired officer. He's still immensely influential within military circles. His statement wasn't a casual observation. It was a warning shot. When Tinubu speaks without mentioning Wike by name, that is what we call being put on order. The president didn't defend his powerful minister. He sided with the military. When the IGP criticized the police involvement, it means even law enforcement is distancing itself from the incident. These aren't coincidence. This is the Nigerian power structure aligning itself, and Wike is finding himself on the outside. Nigerian military establishment has long memories. They remember when civilians respected military authority. They remember when the boundary between civil and military affairs was clear. And they definitely remember what happens when that boundary gets violated. Wike might have not considered that the military doesn't forget. Unlike politicians who move on to the next controversy, military officers remember disrespect. They remember when their authority was questioned. and they have ways of making life difficult for those who cross them, all within legal and institutional frameworks. Tinubu needs the military more than he needs Nyesom Wike. Nigeria is fighting insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, separatist agitations in the southeast, and insecurity everywhere. The president cannot afford to have a fractured relationship with his armed forces. Between keeping Wike happy and keeping the military loyal, there is no contest. Wike power comes from his political machinery and his control of Abuja. But political power means nothing when you are isolated at the top. If the security establishment decides you are a problem, your political structure can't protect you. Most Nigerians respect the military, especially the rank and file, who risk their life fighting terrorism and insurgency. A minister bullying a young officer doesn't play well with the public, regardless of party affiliation. And this is the reason why they are supporting that Naval officer rather than Nyesom Wike. So it is obvious Nyesom Wike is on his own. It is obvious he's fighting this battle alone. It is obvious that the power that be has isolated him. Wike could swallow his pride and issue a comprehensive apology, not just to the Naval officer, but to the armed forces as a whole. He could acknowledge that he handled the situation poorly and commit to better civil-military relations. This will require humility, something Wike isn't known for. But if he understands that he is now on his own, I think this is the best thing he needs to do. Else, Tinubu could simply freeze him out. No more prime assignment, no more being the go-to minister for sensitive issues. Gradually sideline him until he becomes just another cabinet member. Death by 1,000 cuts. Or in the next minister reshuffling, Wike could find himself moved to a less powerful ministry or elevate to some ceremonial position. It is a common political tactic that is used to demote influential and powerful ministers. Or you can choose to resign. Yes, absolutely right. Wike can choose to resign because it stands now, nobody is backing him. This incident is revealing something crucial about how power works in Nigeria. You can be loud, you can be aggressive, you can bulldoze your opponent, you can control vast political machinery. But when you disrespect the military in a country where the military has repeatedly shown it is the ultimate arbiter of power, you are playing with fire. Wike built his career on the principle that strength and confrontation get results. And for a long time, he was right. But there is a difference between confronting political opponents and confronting institutions that have toppled government. The military isn't Rivers State PDP. The military isn't the political opposition. The military is the one institution in Nigeria that can end any political career and has done so repeatedly throughout our history. Recently, you all heard of a military coup that led to the reshuffling of the service chief. Not even the president can afford to toy or disrespect the military. Tuku Buratai statement, Tinubu rebuke, and the IGP criticism aren't just words. They are the establishment telling Wike, you have gone too far. Will Wike survive this? The honest answer, it depends on how he responds in the next few weeks. We have already seen his response to radio and channels television. He's still criticizing the military. If he shows humility and respect for military hierarchy, he might weather this storm. His political value to Tinubu is still significant. If he remains defiant or dismissive, he will find himself increasingly isolated. And in Nigerian politics, isolation is often a prelude to political extinction. The military has spoken, the presidency has spoken, the police have spoken. Now it's Wike's turn to respond. Will he show wisdom or will his pride be his downfall? There is an old Nigerian saying, the fly that refuses to listen follows the cough to the grave. Wike has built his reputation of being the tough guy, the one who doesn't back down, the political enforcer who gets things done by any means necessary. But in confronting that Naval officer, he may have finally encountered a force he can't bulldoze, an institution he can't intimidate, and a hierarchy he can't ignore. The powers that be have sent their message. The question is Wike listening? Because in Nigerian complex power dynamics, there are some battles you can win and some battles you should never fight. Disrespecting the military, that is a battle even the most powerful minister can win. I am Avalanche Media, and I bring the truth like an avalanche. Fast, heavy, and unstoppable. Stay informed, stay vigilant, stay ready. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.